right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick round of applause for Stanley for being here. He's been a big inspiration in the dream research community, so it's really a pleasure that you are here today and are here listening to my talk, so I appreciate you. But before we get started, I want to kick things off with a question. What if I told you that your dreams are leaving you messages, patterns hidden in your subconscious, just waiting to be uncovered? What if the way we dream at 20 is vastly different than how we dream at 50?
Where?
Well, our research aims to answer that question exactly, and our research looks at how dreams change as we age.
There we go.
So we use a longitudinal content analysis approach. In addition, our study is an autoethnographic study, meaning the principal investigator, Dr. Richard Bardell, also serves as one of the main participants within our study. So we use a dream content analysis approach originally done by Van Cassel all the way back in 1994. And the goal of our study is to see how our dreams change as we age and contribute any theory into dream interpretation, and really answer the question, what are our dreams trying to tell us? So a quick fun facts about dreaming before we get started. REM sleep was discovered in 1952. They were doing a study at the University of Ohio, and they connected their participants up to an EEG machine to measure brain activity, and they saw when they were sleeping this heightened activity of brain waves, and when they woke them up during that stage, they actually remembered their dreams 100% of the time. And REM sleep is also more important than just dreaming as well. It's important for storing memory, and it's also good for muscle recovery and things like that. But yeah, that's a little fun fact. So there's been a plethora of theories explaining why we dream. I don't have too much time today, so I'm not going to go into all of them. But one theory that Dr. Bardell talks about in his book is that we think that we dream as kind of sort of a playthrough in life. We get put in these situations, so if we're ever presented with them, then we know what to do and we know how to react. We also dream because our subconscious mind is trying to communicate things through our conscious mind. And that could be by things of symbolization. Oftentimes, what we see in our dreams isn't usually what it is at face value. For example, if I'm having a dream and I get bit by a dog, a lot of people would interpret that as, oh, I'm getting attacked by an animal. The way we would see it as, when we think of a dog, a lot of times we think a man's best friend. And when you're getting attacked, that could be a betrayal. So maybe that dream where you're getting attacked by an animal is actually a dream about a best friend betraying you. That's just an example of that. So like mentioned, we draw a lot of our content analysis approaches from Van Cassel's research, who did a cross-sectional study. But they looked at sex-based differences between dreams, so looking at different dreams of men versus women. They also looked at dreams of people of different cultures. However, they did not look at how dreams change over time. Some things they found are that men had more dreams of aggression, achievement, more sex-oriented dreams, a lot more outdoor settings, whereas women had more indoor settings of dreams, and a lot more diverse range of emotions, more happiness, whereas men had a lot more like anger, frustration, anxiety. They also reported that East Coast dreamers reported more aggressive dreams than those on the Midwest. I find that interesting because of the crime correlation, how there is more crime on the East Coast compared to the Midwest. One very important thing that Van Cassel talked about in his research is the importance of animals. A lot of times animals could be very representative of things in our dreams. For example, a crow could represent death, things like that. And he saw that children had way more dreams of wild and scary animals, whereas as you grew older in the college level, there's dreams about pets, domestic animals, also gender differences between the animals that we dream of. And then as we grow older as well, our dreams, he saw changes in dreams with more passivity, retirement, and the dreamer is more absent rather than the dreams being told through us, where we're kind of like the main character of our dreams. And as we get older into the 80s, we have a lot more dreams of feeling lost, frustration, and vulnerability. But his study looked at dreams of people of two different age groups, so like a group of 20-year-olds, a group of 60-year-olds, 80-year-olds, things like that. But when you look at a study like that, there could be things like history effects and other co-founding variables that might skew the results a little bit. So our study follows the same specific people and tracks them over a course of lifetime. So we could get rid of things like history effects and other co-founding variables like that. So like mentioned, our study is a longitudinal study. So it's across multiple decades. We use a content analysis framework. And we try to quantify each dream. And to do that, we break each dream down into 6 core categories. We have actions, objects, settings, people, emotions, and complexes. All of those are pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to touch on complexes a little bit later. We also do test-rested coding to ensure good inter-rater reliability. So we have a group of coders that go and code the dreams, and they all code the same dream, and the lead research assistant will compare the coding amongst all the coders, and we've seen inter-rater reliability up to over 80%. We understand that this could be a very subjective thing when it comes to coding. I'll also show you all an example of what it looks like when we code. But we do have coding guidelines that tells us the who, why, what, where, and how to code to ensure that there's as much objectivity as possible. So why does this matter? Why are we doing this? So this fills in any major gaps in dream research by focusing on within-person changes over time, rather than a cross-sectional group comparisons which show chronological change. So the methods, I know I touched upon this a little bit, but we use a dream content analysis, like mentioned, where we just break each dream down into the core elements. It is a heuristic or autoethnographic study, again, like mentioned. So Dr. Bardill, he's been keeping a dream journal since he's been 20 years old, and he's now, I believe, in his 60s, so he's been keeping up for this for a while. And one thing that we've seen as well too is that the more you keep a dream journal, the more likely you are to remember your dreams as well too. So this is something I also started doing as well, started keeping dream journals. So maybe in about like 50 years I could be a participant in our study as well too. Yeah, like mentioned, so we've been tracking his dreams from his 20s, 30s, 40s, and now his 50s. And we, like mentioned, we have a strict set of coding guidelines. And then we have an appendix to where we organize all of our findings in as well, that I'll show you an example of later. And this is all to just identify any reoccurring patterns, theme shifts, or age-related changes. So this is just an example of our of how we define our objects, actions, people, emotions, settings. So it's all pretty self-explanatory, except for complexes. Complexes are sort of the out-of-the-ordinary latent themes that we might see in dreams. We draw these ideas from Freud, Jung, and the red ones out there are complexes that we've added ourselves. I'm gonna just give an example of each one. So condensation, that's when one person or object transforms into another. So say this was a dream right now, and I were just to transform into a dragon and fly away. That would be an example of condensation. Persona, a dreamer wears odd clothing that doesn't really fit the environment. That's if I was up here presenting in a bikini. Maybe next time. And the ones in red are things that we've added and brought to the study. So for example, karmic inversion. That was, say I have a client, and in real life, I'm not dreaming. Say I have a client that comes up to me and he's like, Nick, could you help me with something? I really need help. And I'm like, no, I'm too busy, I can't do that right now. And then I have a dream, and then I go and ask someone for help, and they're like, no, I can't help you, I'm too busy. So that's an example of karmic inversion. So here's all of the complexes that we track. And this is what an example of what the content analysis coding looks like. So we highlight each different category into a different part. And then we put it into this appendix, which is kind of like a list of tallies. And that just kind of allows us to compare decades. Like mentioned, we do inter-rater reliability testing where we all code the same sample dream. And then, like I mentioned, we've had inter-rater reliability up to 80%, which is pretty good. So our study currently is ongoing. We're currently on to coding the dreams of the 50s, but we have made some comparisons between the 20s and the 30s decade. So here's a chart that one of the people on our team made. We've seen a lot less dreams with animals as we grow older, less asking, less attractive women, less anger emotions, and then less complexes like condensation. One interesting thing as well too is that we've seen overall just less like harsh emotions like anxieties, angers, and fears. A lot less dream about a woman as well too, like an attractive woman. A lot less dreams of being at a bar setting as we go from our 20s to 30s, which kind of makes sense. And I'm going to touch on like a little bit what this might mean. So a decrease in emotional intensity, like the fear, shock, and frustration that we see less of, this could represent things like increased emotional regulation. We see a lot more talking to other people throughout our dreams as we grow older, so that can suggest continuity in social engagement. Also, less attractive woman, like I mentioned, as we grow older, and that could point to evolving romantic or sexual focus across different life stages. Less bar setting dreams that could represent different lifestyle changes. We've also seen less family-oriented dreams as we grow older, which is something that seemed a little surprising to me. And this may indicate shifts in relational focus or independence in adulthood. And one interesting thing that I don't have included here is, in addition to doing content analysis of dreams, we're also looking for any like psychic experiences within dreams. Somebody told me once that we have at least one psychic experience in our life. Most people have at least one. And 62.5% of psychic experiences actually happen within dreams. So we're looking out for things like telepathy, precognition, maybe an out-of-body experience the dreamer might have as well too. And we all have, through our participants, we have seen some sort of precognitive dreams where the dreamer had a dream about a distant relative getting like hit by a car, and then about a few weeks later, it did happen. So that's something really interesting that we saw. So what's next for our study? So we're currently coding the 50s dreams and touching upon the 40s, and then we aim to compare the decades as well. And with more complete data, we develop stronger conclusions about how the dream content evolves with age, particularly emotional, social, and symbolic patterns. I understand that our participants' size is definitely low, and so we don't necessarily have good external reliability, meaning we aren't able to necessarily attribute our findings to a broad general population, but this is a study, the first of its kind, so we aim to be a baseline for which future studies could replicate, and then maybe they might compare their findings to ours to see if there's any correlation with how their dreams change versus ours. We also want to explore more cultural influences as we get more participants and see how cultural backgrounds shape dreams and content. Also, clinical applications of dreams I think would be really cool. Like mentioned, we dream because our subconscious could be communicating things to our conscious. This could be fears, traumas, desires, things like that. And if we could address some of our dreams, then maybe we could really get some of the deep-rooted problems out. So these findings offer insight into dreaming patterns, shifts in content, and the way the subconscious mind operates during sleep. The use of a heuristic and dream content analysis provide a unique lens to explore the principal investigators' evolving dreams narratives across life. This research broadens our understanding of how and why we dream, highlighting the value of longitudinal participant-centered approaches in dream studies. And by tracking changes across decades, we're going a deeper view into the emotional and psychological development reflected in dreams. And here are some of our references. But that is my talk. I hope y'all enjoy it. Thank you. Yes.
Would you be willing to scan your slides so we can read them later and reply to you and Professor Bargill?
I would love to.
That'd be great.
And does anybody have any questions?
I've just got a comment, especially with the dreams concerning medical conditions.
Mm-hmm.
I've done OBGYN oncology, and I cannot even count the number of women that I had come to me saying, I knew something was wrong. I knew I had cancer. Check everything.
Wow.
And sure enough, they would have an early cancer, early ovarian or early uterine, or even an early breast cancer. I did more with uterine and ovarian cancer than the breast cancer. But it was so common that, you didn't even write it down, you know.
So they were having dreams that they had
Yeah.
the cancer. Wow, that's really interesting.
So I think that would be worth, I I would say partnering with your medical teams. You're at UVA?
VCU.
VCU, and seeing if you can draw in some studies from them.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's really interesting. I really appreciate that. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything? Well, thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate it. And I found out about 15 minutes ago that I was doing this talk, so this was really on the fly for me. So I appreciate it. Thank you.